All right, Team MSC, y'all ready to talk golf swing? Because look at these swings from my main man, Kelby Burton. I'll tell you, I'm actually shocked at how quickly Kelby could incorporate some of the things that we had all talked about in the last video. And I'll tell you, this is one of the I love this golf swing. I think it is really a work of art, and that's what I always strive for in all my physical pursuits. But let's let this play through one time and just marvel at it. So here he is with his driver from the caddy view. Man, that is cool. So the very first thing I want to talk about is let's take a look at his head position. Now notice how he has that pole lined up right behind his head. That's going to be a great marker just to use. And let's watch his head. As he goes back, we're going to see the first lowering start to happen as he really gets loaded at the top. So now he's really engaging his quads at this point and dropping his center of gravity. And now, as we get into the second part of the swing, we're going to see a second lowering. Now, I wonder if Johnny Miller and people would be saying, oh, he's dipping, oh no, or Nick Faldo, he's dipping his levels and all this stuff. This is what Hogan and Trevino and all these guys did. But specifically, let's talk about the beauty of how he maintains that steady head. Now, when Mr. Hogan goes forward, his head does move back to the left a bit, but just enough to get square. But look at how steady that head stays. And just like Freddie Couples and many great ball strikers, as he clears that left side, his head will even move backwards an inch or so. But look at that impact position. So let's talk about a couple of other things. I would like to talk about how he loads into his right side. Now let's look at his lower body work. He's coiling around that right leg. And here we're going to start to see that move. Both heels are on the ground. He's rotating around that fixed axis point of his head. And man, he's got that elbow, right elbow just tucked so nicely by his side. And look how much right elbow there's still left to give in that right arm. And that club face is just screaming into impact and hardly any rotation at all. Some people had talked about excess face rotation, but I think that this is pretty good. One of the things that you'll marvel about pro golfers is they hit it right on the screws and you don't see that head flipping around very much. If you miss it by a quarter of an inch, you lose like 10% of your yardage. But that's why it's so crucial that these guys hit it right on the screws, and obviously Kelby does. Now look at his right arm extension. So gorgeous. He saved all this right arm, Mr. Hogan's 3 right hands, and look at this. Bam. Puts that right arm into it. And then his rotation pulls him up to a lovely finish. So balanced. Now, one more thing I want to talk about from this angle is Kelby's left foot. Let's watch his left foot from this angle. Man, that is stable. So yeah, that swing is a work of art, and I really hope that he does great at his Open qualifier next week. So let's look at the caddy view. God, that is so sweet. I'll watch that one more time. Yeah, you can make a lot of birdies with a swing like that. But what I want to talk about here is something, you know, it's remarkable when you're working with players at this kind of level because they're so kinesthetically aware. They have so much body awareness that they can make changes very, very quickly. You know, for us mere mortals, it takes us a lot longer. Now, I think it's a great thing that, you know, Kelby swings with the elbows together. That's, you know, the famous picture in the Ben Hogan book where the forearms are basically bound together. And, you know, Mr. Hogan actually let him separate a little bit before he snapped everything back together. But he said that, and this is something he said directly to Chris Cheddar, he said he really felt like that right elbow was lower than his left elbow. And, you know, and that excited many conversations with Chris and Mr. Hogan that caused her to bring out her video camera, you know, because she saw some things that were a little bit different in his swing. Now, at one point, the right elbow is below the left, and then at another point, suddenly it changes in a millisecond. The left elbow is underneath the right. So, but what Mr. Hogan wanted to feel, he told her, is he's coming in with his right elbow underneath. And this is what leads us into what I call the wheelhouse and then the squeeze pivot. But let's look at Kelby. Now, we're going to notice that he still has a very high hand set. He's flexible enough to not lose his balance and really reach up there to the shoulder plane and get a lot of leverage. But watch him drive this elbow down now. This position is a lot different than what we just saw before. Man, he's got it more pressed against his side than in the previous video. Wow. This position is that's the craziest Shangri-La position I've ever seen in my life. But he is ready to get in. This is where we, you know, what I call the wheelhouse, where that club is just going to rip right down through the shaft plane and just get back on that ball. And what a beautiful low left release too. You see that there's like no hitches or anything. You know, let's watch how this club comes right through there. It just rips right through the impact zone. Again, like I said, the head isn't doing anything crazy, so it shows that he really, really nailed it right on the screws. You know, just an absolutely gorgeous ball flight. So I want to watch his lower body here. Now this is, I love how he really increases his angles here and he gets into those quads. Now look at how quickly his right knee is going to get in front of his left knee, showing that his lower body is clearing. And we see that left hip coming around as he gets into his Shangri-La. Now look at this left shoulder and left hip. I mean, he is just getting around. That club is coming in late. And you'll see, now look, this club face is very square to the arc at this point. And it's just going to swing around right through while that left foot stays planted and that head stays down. And the momentum of this energy is going to pull Mr. Burton right up into that lovely finish. I'll tell you what, I'd trade my swing for this one in a second. And of course, that'd mean I'd be playing pro golf somewhere. But Kelby's a young man. I think he's got tons and tons of talent. From Augusta, I hope one day we're going to be rooting him on in the Masters. But thank you so much, Kelby, for getting out to the range and working on the things that we've all been trying to do ourselves. So hit him long and hit him straight. I really encourage you to go check out myswingevolution.com, and that's where I have my video, The Hogan Code, where I talk about my journey to learn to swing like Mr. Hogan and all the fruits and benefits that it brought to my life. So hit them long and hit them straight.